When I was a teacher, there was one part of the school year I absolutely dreaded: the mandatory beginning of the year safety trainings. Not because safety didn't matter. Of course it mattered. But those trainings were long, dry, and honestly, kind of painful. I'd be sitting there trying to pay attention, but my brain was already in my classroom. I was thinking about lesson plans, meeting with my teaching team, setting up the room, and getting ready for students to walk through the door. So even though the training was important, it felt like one more thing standing between me and the work I was anxious to get done. And I think that's exactly how a lot of adult learners feel when they open an online training. They're not just learners. They're people with meetings, deadlines, emails, stress, and actual work waiting for them. So when we design like we have unlimited access to their attention, we're already in trouble. A course can be accurate and still exhausting. It can be required and still ineffective. And if the learner is drained by the time they get to the part that matters, we haven't really helped them. We've just made them survive another module. Because completion is not the same as learning. A learner can click through every slide, pass the quiz, and still walk away with almost nothing they can use, not because they don't care, but because the course never gave their brain a fair chance to stay engaged. In this video, I'll show you why learners tune out during long online training, how to break lessons into smaller pieces that protect their energy, and how to add simple interactions so the course feels less like something to survive and more like something they can actually learn from. Before we get into the design strategies, I want to go back to the classroom for a minute, because this is where I learned something that still applies to adult learning. I never expected students to sit silently for an entire class period and stay locked in the whole time. So I changed things up constantly. Every 10 or 15 minutes, and often sooner, students were doing something different. They might be working at vertical whiteboards, talking with a partner, moving into small groups, or taking a quick brain break before we came back to the academic work. I did that because students needed rhythm. They needed movement. They needed a chance to process. And for students who were struggling, a quick change gave them a way back in before anxiety took over. Adult learners need the same thing. But somehow, when learners become adults, we start acting like their brains no longer need rhythm, variety, or breathing room. We give them a 40-minute module, pack it with slides, ask them to click next over and over, and then wonder why they tune out. That's where digital wellness comes in. It means designing with the person on the other side of the screen in mind. Their focus, energy, time, and ability to actually use what we're teaching. So if we want learners to stay engaged, we have to stop designing courses like attention is unlimited. We have to design for the person, not just the content. And that starts before you build a single slide. It's easy to begin with, what do we need to cover? Because there are standards, policies, compliance requirements, and subject matter experts who want everything included. But the learner is usually asking something much simpler. What do I need to know? How does this affect my work? What am I supposed to do differently? So the first digital wellness shift is to design from the learner's side of the screen. Picture someone taking your course between meetings with messages popping up, a deadline waiting, and a full day of work still ahead. What would actually help that person? Instead of building a 45-minute module around everything you need to know about workplace safety, build it around the decisions they need to make. What should they notice? What should they avoid? Who should they tell? What should they do if something goes wrong? Now, the course is not just a pile of information. It's a tool they can use. So use this filter. After this training, what does the learner need to do, remember, or decide? If something does not support that, it may belong in a resource, a manager guide, or an optional Learn More section. because every extra detail has a cost, whether it's attention, time, or energy. And even when the content is relevant, the learner's brain can only hold so much at once. That's why the next move is to break the training into smaller chunks before the learner hits overload. A long module can feel like a tunnel. The learner clicks in, sees 40 minutes ahead of them, and their energy drops before the learning even starts. Smaller chunks feel more manageable. They give people a sense of progress, create natural stopping points, and make it easier to focus on one thing at a time. So instead of one long section called Understanding Data Privacy Policies, break it into smaller pieces. What counts as sensitive data? What should you never share? What should you do when you're unsure? What does this look like in your actual job? Each piece has one job. That's the rule I like to use. One chunk, one purpose. One question, one skill, or one decision. Because when a lesson tries to do too many things at once, the learner has to sort the information while they're learning it, and that gets exhausting fast. A 3-minute lesson that teaches one useful decision can do more than a 30-minute module packed with every detail in the policy. But chunking alone is not enough. Even a short lesson can feel draining if they are only watching, listening, and clicking next. So the next piece is to build in small resets before they check out. And a reset does not have to be complicated. It can be a quick reflection question, a one-question knowledge check, a short scenario, or even a prompt to pause, stretch, and come back when they're ready. The problem with a lot of online training is that it waits too long to involve the learner. It gives them content, and then finally asks a few quiz questions at the end. By then, the quiz feels less like learning and more like a gate they have to get through. So instead, ask them to use the information while the idea is still fresh. Instead of saying, now that you've learned the 5 signs of a phishing email, click next, show them a sample email and ask, what's the first thing here that makes you suspicious? That one question changes the experience. Now the learner is not just receiving information, they're practicing. But be careful. Interaction only helps if it helps the learner think, decide, practice, or reset. If it's just clicking for the sake of clicking, it's not engagement, it's decoration. If it's just clicking icons, opening tabs, or dragging labels around to make the course feel interactive, it may be adding friction. Digital wellness is not about making the course flashy. It's about making the course feel doable. The last piece is to make the training feel useful right away. Adult learners are often asking, even if they never say it out loud, why do I need this? How does this help me? What am I supposed to do with it? So don't make them wait 10 slides to find out. Instead of opening with, in this module, we will review the company communication policy. Start with the real situation they'll face. Something like, by the end of this module, you'll know what to say, what not to say, and who to contact when a customer asks for information you're not allowed to share. That gives the learner a reason to care. It also lowers stress because now they know what the course is helping them do. And that's the heart of digital wellness in online learning. It's not about watering down the content. It's about designing in a way that matches how people actually learn. Learners can care about the topic and still get tired. They can be responsible professionals and still lose focus. And they can complete the course without remembering much. So our job is not just to deliver information. It's to create the conditions where learning can happen. And one of the best ways to do that is by giving the course a structure learners actually want to follow. Because once you've protected their energy, the next question is, how do you keep them engaged from beginning to end? That's where storytelling can help. So if you want to see how to use storytelling as a structure when designing e-learning courses, click right here.